everyone. This is day 3 of my trip to France, and this was the one thing I really wanted to do with Mom, was to go to the Dior exhibit. So this entire video is about couture, and there's not a lot of me or Mom because I really focused solely on filming the 2 exhibits that we went to see, and it's actually mostly Dior because Yves Saint Laurent was not great, even though he's great, but the exhibit itself was not great. So what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about Dior, because he's a very interesting character. Unbeknownst to me, he actually started going into politics. He went to the French Institute of Political Science, and then he left and he did other things in between, and then he opened his own couture salon. And he actually opened it at 30 Avenue de Montaigne, which is where his building is right now. It's always been there. So he opens up this shop, and at the time it was just basically one big room to make the clothes, and he had one fitting room and a couple of salons. And the salons were meant for high society ladies who wanted to buy, I don't know, new dresses or whatever. He would do mini runway shows for them. So they would sit, maybe 10 of them in the salon, and the ladies would come in, the models would come in and showcase 5 or 6 dresses. But he was doing at the time a lot of made-to-order dresses. So he was just basically a high-end tailor. That's who he was when he started. So he became famous for that, for doing made-to-order dresses in the mid-40s, late 1940s. And then in 47, he came up with the new look. And that was sort of revolutionary because if you think about it, it was right after World War II. And if you remember, during World War II, all the dresses, whether in the US or France, they were all very flat. They didn't have much flounce. They were just plain dresses. The top looked like a shirt, like a regular blouse, and it was a skirt. And they started to go a little bit higher, and some of them, not yet above the knee, that was more like the 60s, but they started to go a little bit higher, whereas before that, it was much longer. Think 1930s movies, the women always wore very long skirts. So he went a little bit above, but not as high as the dresses used to be in the 40s and during World War II. So when he came up with the new look, which was really to enhance a woman's shape, so it was the perfect hourglass figure. It was not initially well received. And you'll see I put a little thing in the video where women actually protested and went outside of his shop. And when he went to London and when the new look was introduced in New York, same thing. Women had, you know, big panels and stuff demanding for skirts to go higher. They were not happy with the length of his skirts. And bottom line is new look won. And that was pretty much the style for the next decade of that hourglass figure. So it's all Christian Dior's mind. He died suddenly in 57, and then a whole series of people succeeded him as the design director of the House of Dior. And I'm going to give you the names, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one of them. So the first one that followed him was Yves Saint Laurent. And Yves Saint Laurent, you'll see Mom talk about him at some point in the video. Mom was born in 37, and so was Yves Saint Laurent. And he was born in Oran, in Algeria. And he left Algeria a little bit before my mom did. So he left way before 1962 when they had to leave. I think he left in maybe 52, something like that. And Mom says she was 15 when he left, so you do the math. And he wanted to be in couture, so he started to work for various salons and boutiques in Paris, and then I guess at some point he hooked up with Christian Dior, and Christian Dior made him his deputy director of fashion. And in 57, Dior died suddenly, and Yves Saint Laurent became the director of the House of Dior. And he stayed all the way through the 60s, and then he opened his own label. And you'll see, I think you'll recognize some of the dresses that are made by Yves Saint Laurent. He came in with his own style. He was still very classic, but he came in with his own style. So he came up with the trapeze dress, which was very common in the 60s. And he also came up with the balloon dress, or the parachute dress, whatever you want to call it. So anytime you're going to see dresses that are like a trapeze, or a dress that's like a big balloon, that's definitely Yves Saint Laurent. Then he left, and he had his own couture salon. Marc Bohan is the one who followed after Saint Laurent. So Bohan is kind of interesting because he's taking the new look and he's adding Yves Saint Laurent style, and he's mixing it together, but he's remaining very classical in his looks, and in particular in the 60s and late 60s. And what happened was that most of Hollywood was dressed by him. So Grace Kelly was dressed by Marc Bohan for Dior. Liz Taylor was dressed by Marc Bohan for Dior. He was really, really big in Hollywood. Then it was Ferré, and I remember Ferré. That was, he's Italian, Gianfranco Ferré. And Gianfranco Ferré is interesting too, because when you look at the styles, and you'll see that in the gallery, but when you go online and you look at Christian Dior over the years, you definitely can tell which one is Ferré. Ferré loves really big sleeves and big bows and big ruffles. Big. So anytime you see something that has a huge collar and a very big bishop type sleeves and a big bow in the front, that's Ferré. But he was also very good with tailored jacket and suits. And he stayed for Dior for a very long time, I think all the way up to 95. And I really remember the House of Dior under Ferré. He was really, really good. Then they had John Galliano. Okay, so Galliano came in, and he was like a superstar, very young. And actually, Yves Saint Laurent was even younger. Saint Laurent became the director, I think he was only 22. Galliano is nuts, okay? Think of him as the Alexander McQueen of France. He really is nuts. He started doing some really, really crazy stuff. And the House of Dior kind of took a nosedive. People were not very receptive to Galliano's style, but he was a couture genius. And once he realized that he needed to stay within the boundaries of the classical look for Dior, he started to do that again. And you'll see a little bit of that in the video. And let me tell you, he is phenomenal. He really does amazing work, drapery, lots of ball gowns. He's very good with fabric, with embroidery, anything that is festive, colors, superb stuff. Simmons followed him, and nobody remembers this guy. And for good reason, his stuff is just so bland. Really, really bland. Simmons is not, I don't think, was a good designer for Dior. And he didn't stay too long. I think he stayed maybe 4 years or something like that until they, you know, give him the big hook. And then, and the current one is Maria Grazia Chiori. So her I have issues with because she's very similar to Galliano in that she does some really crazy stuff, but she's very good at what she does. So when she actually does something that's classical, it's superb. But when she goes like cray, it's over the top, insane. So what I did in the video for Dior is that whenever I could, and I remembered, I actually did attach the name of who the designer was. And you'll see eventually you start picking up on their style. So we did Dior first, and if you remember, it was sold out and they were closing on the 1st of May, and I arrived on the 28th, so we could only go on that Sunday, and we were very concerned that they weren't gonna let us queue and get tickets, but we got there first. We were first in line in the queue, and it went all the way around the block, and it's a big building, but they let you in staggered, so they let in like 10 people at a time with a good 10 minutes in between. So you actually don't feel crowded at all when you go there. I mean, on the video, you'll see there were other people in the rooms with us, but it's not like you're fighting to get to see dresses up close and personal. It was absolutely amazing. And I know the video doesn't give it justice because I've been working a lot on editing it. Took me a long time to edit this video in particular. But it was just unbelievable, and they had so many dresses, and you want to stay and look at them with close-ups, and that's what we did with Mom and I had my phone, and I was taking videos with this camera and videos with my phone. So this video is actually a mix of both, and with my phone I would zoom in, you know, just to look at things, and we were able to really see details of stitches and embroidery and buttons and buttonholes and points. It was pleats, you name it. Unbelievable work. I mean, it's by far, I think Dior and probably Givenchy and Balmain are my favorite clothes designer when it comes to couture. He is, and the house of Dior is absolutely amazing. So the exhibit was great, and I hope you enjoyed this. Then we had lunch, and I'm only showing them what we ate, that's it, which was very good. We only had 2 salads. And then we went to Yves Saint Laurent. And that was, I talked about it before, a big disappointment. Dior was a huge building, so they were able to do a lot of rooms with a lot of space. Yves Saint Laurent, they did it at the Berger Foundation, and Berger, I understand, was his lover for many, many years, and the two of them were art collectors, and they had several houses, including one in, I think it's Tunisia. Is it Tunisia or Morocco? It's one of those. And there's a museum there as well. And the two of them collected a lot of things, and they lived in that private hotel, which is basically like a private residence, like a townhouse, but massive, in Paris. And that's where he had his atelier. They made this the Berger Foundation. Berger was a big guru of advertisement, you know, ads, whether it was billboards or TV ads. That's basically what he was doing. He was into advertising companies. So they hooked up a long time ago, and they lived together for a very long time. But they lived in that house, and that house became the Berger Foundation. And what they did with it is that they picked 2 or 3 floors and made those floors, which were really apartment floors, an exhibit floor. And it's cramped. There's not a lot to see. The lighting was terrible, and I can tell you it's terrible because you can tell when you compare what they had at the Dior, you don't see the footage flicker because they used the proper light bulbs. At the Yves Saint Laurent Foundation, they use, I don't know if it's tungsten or LED, can't remember, but you can see those lights flicker on camera, and it's kind of annoying. But the biggest problem is that it was really cramped, and there was no direction, like, you know, arrows this way or that way. You just walk into a room and you got to figure it out. And we got lost. We tried to take the elevator because Mom didn't want to take the stairs, because, you know, again, it's an apartment. We didn't want to take the stairs, and we ended up on the floor where that was the exit for that particular exhibit, and we couldn't go against people. So we had to go back downstairs and try to figure out how to get to that floor. Then there was a floor in the middle we couldn't access. There had to be like 50 people in the staircase waiting to get in. Mom had it. She had it. She just like, she really wanted to see Yves Saint Laurent because she has a love for him, for his work, and a shared history together. Not like knowing each other, but you'll find out. And she really was looking forward to the Yves Saint Laurent exhibit, but was super disappointed. And she actually is the one who said, we gotta go, we're leaving. And I'm like, okay. So I'm only showing you a little bit of Yves Saint Laurent because it was really disappointing. And the man was a genius. There were so many other ways to do this exhibition. They could have done a museum in any other location. They didn't have to do it at the Berger Foundation. And I think it was a true disservice to the house of Yves Saint Laurent to do it that way. But anyway, and then we walked down the Champs-Élysées. So I'm showing you that, and I don't know if that doesn't dissuade you or promotes the idea that you really don't have to do the Champs-Élysées when you go to Paris. I don't know what else we'll do. Because it was just terrible. It was terrible. It's just people walking aimlessly, and there's absolutely nothing to see on the Champs-Élysées. I mean, the Arc de Triomphe, yes, but that's about it. After that, it's just store upon store upon store, and they were all closed anyway because it was Sunday. And then you'll see there was a little mini protest or demonstration by the Louis Vuitton store. And that's pretty much it. Then we kept walking all the way towards the Louvre. We crossed the Tuileries garden, which is behind the Louvre, and by the Palais Royal, and this is where I'm leaving you in this video. Every Sunday they have free ballroom dancing. So talk about sights and sound. I actually filmed 2 dances that they did. The first one I think is a tango, and the second one I believe is the Paso Doble. And it's just people who like ballroom dancing. They meet up every Sunday and they play a tape on the speaker, and you get like 50 couples dancing tango and Paso Doble and the valse and you name it in the middle of Paris, and people are watching them and they don't care. They just do something they're passionate about. I think it's awesome. And that would be it. So that's where I'm leaving the video. So it's really mostly the Dior exhibit with lots of montage. And if you are into fashion, you're in for a treat. If it's not your thing, this video is probably not going to give you anything because you don't see much of me and Mom. A little bit of Paris here and there, the subway, you know, stuff like that. But it's really not, the video is not about that. The video is really about showcasing the 2 exhibits, and Dior in particular. Experience of a lifetime. It really was. I'm so grateful I got to see it with Mom. So grateful. And she loved it. We spent, I would say, a good 4 hours in there. Nuts, right? Because we started at 11 and we were done by 2:30, and we had a quick lunch, and by 3:50 we were at Yves Saint Laurent, which is like 10-minute by walk. Anyway, so enjoy the video.
C'est pour ça qu'ils veulent nous dire tout ça.
Everyone, today's Sunday and I am walking up the subway on the Champs-Élysées, and we are at the rond-point des Champs-Élysées. So let me get my bearing to see if I'm on top of it. Okay, we are going today. It's a special day for me and Mom. We are going to the Dior exhibit and the Yves Saint Laurent exhibit. So now, here's the issue. The Dior exhibit is closing tomorrow until the 17th, so I'm missing it. And it was sold out. So we gotta do the queue and hope, let's cross our fingers, that we can get tickets, you know, like they let us in. Which I hope they will. It starts at 11, it's 9:45, so we are ahead. So that's what we're doing. We're doing the Dior exhibit first, and then we have tickets for Yves Saint Laurent at 3:50. So you're in for a treat. Let me show you the Champs-Élysées, and then we're going Avenue de Montaigne, number 30 Avenue de Montaigne at the Dior building.
Il faut leur dire que c'est à 9h du matin qu'il faut aller sur les Champs-Élysées un dimanche. Tout est fermé,
I know you can't see it well, but we'll see it later on. The Arc de Triomphe is behind us, all the way in the back over there. And it's Sunday morning, everything is closed. Some stores will be open. Alright, here goes the Dior building, it's right here. And the queue is gonna be over there. So Dior is the entire building, and that's the original one. It's always been the Dior building. Chanel is not from Avenue de Montaigne, it's Rue de Cambon. It's a different neighborhood. And I'm hoping we can do the queue. They open at 11, so we very, very early. We're the first ones here, and they said that they will get us tickets, so I'm excited. we had a really good lunch at La Mascotte. It's right there. It's at the beginning of Avenue de Marceau. It's across the street from the Eiffel Tower, and it was really nice. A bit pricey because, you know, it's a touristy area, but I've learned that in touristy areas like this, when you go to brasseries, you don't order actual hot meals because they are sous vide, most of them. So get a salad, and we had really good salads. Well, you saw them. So my quick review of the Dior exhibit, unbelievable. A once in a lifetime experience. It was extraordinary. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And Mom loved it. I bought the book from the exhibit because it's just, I don't know. And they gave me the book in a Dior bag, so now I'm looking all fancy. It was unbelievable. It was really nice, and I know I'm probably saturating you with shots and, you know, mini videos and montage on it. And guess what? It's not over, because now we're going to Yves Saint Laurent. And they're really not far from each other. And by the way, the exhibits change. The Dior one is actually closing tomorrow for 17 days. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to change the dresses and the decor and everything. And Yves Saint Laurent is the same way. So what you're seeing now, when you go to France next year, for instance, you may not be able to see the same thing. So anyway, we are going to Yves Saint Laurent, and you can see it right here. It's an exhibit that's called Gold. So let's go and check it out. Okay, so we left Yves Saint Laurent. You saw some of it. I have to be honest, it wasn't good at all. It's very poorly indicated. We got lost for about 15 minutes. And we're not idiots, okay? Finding ourselves in the opposite sense of the visit, because Mom wanted to take the elevator, which, you know, at her age she can. But when you take the elevator, it takes you in the opposite. So you end up seeing the end of the exhibit and you can't go to the other side. They won't let you in. And then it's all in small rooms, and there were so many people trying to get into little rooms. We just left. We left. It was poorly put together, and it's a shame. It's a disservice to Yves Saint Laurent, the way they showcased his work. The man was a genius. I get it, they tried to put a museum out of a small set of apartment rooms, but the way you don't know where you are or which way to go. There's like put arrows on the floor, something. It was not good, but the work is beautiful. His work is amazing, but it's a disservice to his genius contribution to fashion. It really is. It's very disappointing. Maman? ta revue.
Comment?
Ta revue du musée Yves Saint Laurent. She's going to tell you what she thinks.
Ce que je dis?
Oui.
En toute franchise?
Oui.
J'avais hâte de sortir.
She couldn't wait to get out. And mom is a fashionista, okay? Mom loves fashion.
J'adore Saint Laurent.
She loves Yves Saint Laurent.
Parce qu'il est de la même année que moi, du même pays que moi. Et quand j'avais 15 ans, quand j'ai su qu'il partait en Europe pour travailler la couture, alors que moi aussi je travaillais la couture sur mes poupées, j'étais jalouse. J'aurais voulu être Saint Laurent. Ça n'a pas été possible. Donc de toute façon, je l'ai beaucoup aimé. Mais là, c'est pas lui porter honneur que de faire une exposition pareille.
So you heard it from the mouth of mom. And we're not even tired or anything, but you can't see Dior and then go to this Yves Saint Laurent. You're gonna be disappointed. It was just a letdown. We're Place de la Concorde, and to be honest, there's absolutely nothing to see here today. In about a year from now is the Olympic Games. They are covering everything that was gilded in tarps and scaffold, and the two big fountains that are magnificent and on the plaza are covered right now, so I really have nothing to show you here. And it's really sad, because it's a bad time to be a tourist in Paris right now. There is nothing to see. The Opera is covered, the Grand Palais is covered, Le Petit Palais is covered, Place de la Concorde is covered, everything has been covered to fix it and spruce it up for the Olympic Games. It's costing France a fortune.
Pour aller vers le jardin des plantes sur lesquels il y a des confidences. Et tous les soirs, il y a des gens qui dansent aussi. Il y a des gens à la fois qui font il y a un mec qui m'avait invité à nous. Ah ouais? Et c'est genre un des profs, je sais pas, il disait qu'il avait fait des enfants. Et j'avais trop eu la honte parce qu'à un moment, il avait dit l'enfant qui court. J'étais trop violent dans tes mouvements.
Ah bah c'est sérieux le passe au doublé. Ah bah ah bah oui, si je fais la musique en même temps.
It was great. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was long and I know it was a lot of music and montage. And again, I really didn't film much of myself and Mom when I was there because I really focused on being with Mom. But I wanted to share the experience with you and I hope you enjoyed it. After I'm done talking, I have the montage of all the photos that I took for the day, if you want to stick around and watch that. And that would be it. So the next video, we are going to the Jacques Marandré Museum and the department stores near the opera, including the Lafayette Gourmet, where they have all the fancy food. And the Jacquemart Museum is very interesting. It's a private residence in the middle of Paris. I had no idea it existed. Neither did Mom, apparently. And they were both very avid collectors of medieval art. And they had an exhibit, a special exhibit on Bellini. And the exhibit probably had the biggest or largest numbers of portraits of Madonna with child I've ever seen. Amazing. It was really, really nice. And you get to see the apartments, you know, her bedroom, his bedroom. I don't think you see the dining room, but the house itself is amazing. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's coming up next week. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next videos. Bye.